Do you believe that LEDs are going to be the dominant light source at some time in the future?
Well, you hear various estimates of any 60 to 70 to 80% of lamp sales to be LED based by 2020. But you know, we don't give up on other technologies quite that rapidly. So sure, it's going to become a more and more dominant source. It's going to vary depending on application, whether it's residential or commercial.
Of today's established lighting technologies, which ones are going to be viable still 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now? And if any of them is going to fall by the wayside, which ones?
I can name one that I think will fall by the wayside perhaps in 5 years, or mostly. Mercury. Good old mercury. I mean, and of course now, you know, there's no new systems out there, but clearly that's one that should be gone within 5 years, or mostly gone. 5 years, I don't expect any other technologies to be gone. What about
low wattage HID, the 20 and 39 watt with electronic ballast? Isn't that being replaced with LED competitively?
Well, ceramic metal halide definitely has some challenges, but you know, until we get some of the higher wattage packages of LEDs, whether it's replaceable modules, for example, so that you can get into these higher wattage CMH products, I think there's still an option. It's still a nice point source. It's got some nice optics and color quality. So, in 5 years,
MR16.
Pardon me?
MR16. Would that go away in 5 years? Do you think?
I don't think so. Not in 5 years. Maybe in 20 years.
We have somewhere in the neighborhood of about 100 to 200 million T12 fluorescent fixtures installed in the United States. Best estimate that we can come up with. These are going to either have to be upgraded to T8 or T5, or they're going to have to be replaced altogether, they're going to replace them altogether, probably T5s or LEDs. Which way do you think the non-residential installations are going to go? And for conventional applications, what are the best products and applications for LEDs right now, considering overall performance and price?
In my opinion, for the near future, it's still T8s, T5s, electronic ballasts, and along with retrofit kits, whether they be volumetric, 8-foot lamp conversions to T8s and that type of thing. What's interesting is that the life of many T8 lamps approach the life ratings of the LEDs, and so it's a difficult sell, at least from a contractor standpoint, to try to go with a different type of light source right now. It's a real tough sell. The payback is not there. As we have seen before, many companies will do it, and the government included, do it just to say, yes, we have LEDs, and it's more of a marketing thing than anything else, because it's a difficult cost justification.
About 80% of America's buildings have outdated lighting systems. In NEMA's conversations with facility management and executives over the last few years, we've seen a tremendous growth in the understanding of lighting technology among people that aren't lighting people. And they know that there are alternate solutions and many options available now that weren't there before. So I don't think there's an easy answer to the question. It's one of these classic, all of the above. They're looking for solutions that are right for their applications, and aware that there's new technology that's going to reduce energy and help them meet their financial goals in their buildings.
The differences of a fluorescent source versus like an LED source. One of the things I find very interesting is, especially when you're at a trade show, we've done things like we've had two identical fixtures. And the two identical fixtures, one of them is a fluorescent source and the other one is an LED source. And you actually ask the person standing in the space if they can tell you the difference between the two or which source is which. Many people can't, because everything is very similar now because the color correctiveness of the LEDs has gotten so much better. But the other issue is when you talk to them about the lumens that are created by each fixture and the input wattages for each fixture, they don't realize how close they really are. In other words, many of them are like almost hand in hand, just a few points off. And then you talk to them about the cost differences, and very often sometimes the LED fixture can be almost twice as much as the fluorescent fixture, and you ask them that exact thing you're talking about, why is it that you're going this way? And they'll actually say, because it's a cool new source. or because the building owner thinks that this is the way to go, and they think that this lets the
Maybe
world
it's
know.
the mercury. I don't have to think about recycling again.
Yeah.
It's
A lot of times they'll say because we want our people to know that we're on the cutting edge.
Yeah, I was just going to mention the wow factor, you know, the cool factor. We change that to the wow factor, and then like Howard was saying, you get to the price thing and they go wow, because of the price factors. And the other thing that we need to think about too, I think, is the lumen maintenance factors. I think NEMA's coming out with a new thing now. They want to change the life cycle factors for LEDs, and even have the lumen factor go lower because they're lasting longer, sort of like the old mercury vapor. It would run for 15 years, you don't get much light out of it, but you're still consuming 175 watts of energy on a 150 watt lamp. It's, you know, technically it works because the arc is struck and you get some light emission, but it's about 90% lumen depreciation. So when you have to compare maintained light levels, when you have fluorescents that maintain 90 to 95% lumen output versus LEDs that only maintain 70% lumen output, comes back again to the life cycle cost benefit factors, where you need to look at the whole package and not just, you know, part of it, not just the initial cost, not just the first cost.
Our organization and its members face a difficult challenge over the next, 25 years, because we rely heavily on maintenance and retrofitting of existing lighting installations. So if there's a lighting out there that lasts 20 years, let's say there's a lamp that lasts 20 years, where does that leave us? So, you know, there is no answer to this right now, but down the road we're going to have to, it's a challenge, and we have to find a way to refocus and be able to capitalize on the market to make sure that we are viable companies. So it's going to be a paradigm shift in our focus for sure.
Mike and Mary Beth in particular, from the lighting user's point of view, how important are certain issues going to be in the next 5 to 10 years? Starting with, let's see, having choices of various light sources, like halogen and fluorescent, HID, solid state.
I'm back to solutions again. I think that as manufacturers, we're going to have to continue to innovate, and we will, as we've done in the past. But it's about providing solutions to the marketplace. And as far as all manufacturers, we're going to have to look and spread our view more than we ever have, as we've been talking about all day today.
I think the importance of having a choice is critical, because, you know, it depends on hours of usage, specific applications, built-in biases against certain technologies, and the fact is, one size doesn't fit all. I mean, there are people right now, as popular as LED outdoor lighting has become, there's people that really prefer metal halide solutions right now just because of the look and the feel of that source versus LEDs. There's people who really don't like to see dots and downlights, and, you know, so they're gonna, you know, look at solutions where it's not obvious that it's an LED. They're looking for more of a halogen look, or, you know, it may be just hours of operation, where you're not going to affect your carbon footprint if you operate something a couple hundred hours a year. Maybe it doesn't really make that much difference.
Given the great many choices, is it reasonable to say that the role of the lighting system designer is going to be far more crucial?
I think lighting designers are critical in making sure that customers understand or end users understand all the trade-offs between technologies, and there are trade-offs. You know, whether it's economics, or quality of light, controllability. So I think that their role is crucial.
In the next 5 to 10 years, how important is it going to be to manage maintenance costs?
The facility management group that NEMA talks to on a regular basis have figured out over the last few years that maintenance savings and maintenance issues, financial issues, are equally as important as energy saving and energy reduction issues. You know, they're very, very interested in lowering their maintenance costs. You know, not one of their budgets is increasing. They're all getting squeezed for their facility maintenance budgets, and they find that the cost of maintaining a lighting system can be reduced with new technology, and they're equally interested in that as they are in energy.
In the beginning, it was all about the installation, and now the standards that we're developing are installation and maintenance standards. And in almost every one of the new standards we come out with, we have to talk about commissioning these systems, because again, like Mike said, Everything's a system anymore. And the system to work right has to be tuned to all the elements of the system. And that's commissioning. When you commission, when it's a new installation, you do commissioning. 3 years from now, the user has found different ways to use their building, and that system no longer fits the application, the reality of what they're doing now. So now we have to look at recommissioning, and I think this is an area that, you know, Cary's concerned about what happens with the lighting maintenance and the lighting management contractors. I think they probably look toward becoming systems commissioning contractors, to where they are more trained in keeping these systems tuned together. And it may not be replacement all the time. It may be somebody comes in on a 3-year basis and goes through the system and checks it out with the computer and makes sure that everything that was working when they first put it in place still applies today and works today. So I think there's a lot of new skills and knowledge that any of our companies are going to have.
That was the point that I was going to make. Based on what we're talking about, it seems to me that the educational requirements and training requirements of everybody in the lighting industry, on the, let's say, the lower rungs, the guys who go in and clean the fixtures or do the installations or whatever it may be, people are going to have to be a lot more learned, literally learned, about what it is they're working on. Otherwise, they're going to be left behind.
Part of NALMCO's direction for its members is maintaining a high level of training for its members, so that we can stay on top of the industry.
I was just thinking about, adaptive space changing. When you take a given facility like this, and this company moves out and somebody else moves in, and they start putting up petitions and things like that, that whole space usage character changes. So with the adaptive lighting systems that we're having are becoming available, that could be more important, but it's still going to take somebody in the industry to come in and reprogram, readjust, reassign, redo whatever. So again, this knowledge and education is going to have to be, a continuous thing. It's ever evolving, but we're going to have to stay on top of it, maybe required, like Southern California Edison is doing with, qualifications for, controls, installation, maintenance, whatever. That probably would come nationwide, I would think, if it works there.
Clearly one of the big directives for manufacturers then is to really continue education and training at a very high level. It also gets back again to this trusted relationship. What kind of system are you going to specify? What are you going to install? And what's going to be the support system over the next 5 years, over the next 10 years? How can we make sure that we work together with partners in order to make sure we're executing a solution that lasts?
Replacement LEDs are now being sold in stores like Lowe's and Home Depot. It seems to me, based on my own experience, every time I go in, they're selling for less and less. Do we have any idea of the consumer acceptance of these? To what extent are people buying? Do we know?
I think at this point, and I don't have the exact numbers, but that the consumer acceptance of LEDs for, let's say, general lighting is pretty low. Holiday lighting, clearly we're seeing a big uptick, but as you look at LED par lamps, LED A-line lamps, generally it's the commercial. Your commercial customers are going to adopt it very quickly, and then it kind of slowly gets adopted by the consumers.
The only place that I've actually seen, and this is even with friends and relatives and people that aren't in the lighting industry, is that many people are doing kitchens over. And it seems to me that's where the LED is really finding a home, because I have visited recently quite a few people that are doing customization on homes, and they're using LED for under cabinet lighting. And we're not talking about the traditional, box under cabinet light. We're talking about, it could be anything like a ribbon, or it could be something that they call a ruler. And one of the things that's really cool about it is that, everybody's using RGB, because they got the little remote control in their hand, and they can basically make the kitchen any color they want. So if they're having a festive thing going on, they can make it look like Christmas. And I think that that's the kind of stuff that you can actually find in Home Depot.
It takes a long time to develop a standard. There has to be consensus, there has to be research and so forth. And then finally you get the standard up, and then it will be reviewed every 5 years. It would seem to me given the pace of development, a review every 5 years is ridiculous because the product may not even be there anymore. How are you going to develop standards for something that's constantly changing like this? Can it be done?
We had recently we developed a standard for installation of electric vehicle supply equipment. It's getting off the lighting topic just a little bit, but when you're looking at an electrical product, the technology is changing so fast. It took us an extra year to get it out so that we could conceivably use this standard for 3 years instead of 5 years, because, like you say, the technology is changing fast. A standard that we put in place today, while it may, under the rules of the consensus rules that they use for developing standards, be renewable in 5 years or be considered to have a 5-year life. In reality, 3 years from now, we're probably going to have some kind of an update on that standard, because they're coming out with induction charging. We've addressed it to a certain extent in the standard, and this standard was released within the last month. We've finally gone through the whole process, and we did have to go through 3 rounds of review, ANSI review, and that kind of stuff. So.
Well, and there are being standards developed for LEDs. NEMA has several out now, and the IES as well, testing standards, and they're somewhat difficult to develop because of the long life. How do you rate the life, and how do you measure it and qualify it? But that is happening. There's also the Zaga organization that is very specifically developing LED standards, and they're worked on connection standards for light engines. There is a controls committee that is looking at the control standards. So I think you'll see them come along, and if they follow the lead of other organizations like ASHRAE, that ASHRAE, for instance, 90.1, the energy standard, uses a continuous maintenance process, so that even though the standard might be labeled in 3 or 5 years, during that period there it's continually updated, so that I keep up with what's happening. And I think if NEMA and the IES and the other organizations do something similar, the LED standards, they'll keep up with it.
They put out amendments, is that what you mean? Something like that?
Right, yeah, addendums to the standard. That after you have so many addendums, once you're at that 3-year or 5-year point, you rewrite the standard incorporating the addendums.
This is a very interesting time, certainly in the history of lighting, but standardization was important with the invention of the first incandescent bulb, and what's the base going to look like. So I think there's been tremendous progress made, long way to go, but for testing methodologies, for configurations, also in metrics. LEDs are going to challenge the way we measure the efficiency of a system. There's we have to get off the lumen per watt number. We've got to get into delivered system. How many watts does it take to light this parking lot? Let's get away from maybe some of the metrics we've hung our hat on, which worked in the past, but maybe it doesn't work so well anymore. So
if the lumens don't go where you want them, do they really matter?
No, they don't.